Chapter 786. They didn't expect that there would be such a powerful force. Ji waved her hand and the experts at the peak of the profound world realm in the evolving temple moved forward at the same time. Boom, boom, boom. 3 loud sounds were heard. Bolts of lightning fell down and cracks appeared on the ground. Those 13 experts at the peak of the profound world realm were hit by this Shen energy. Blood immediately started to drip down slowly. Seeing this powerful Shen energy, they immediately took a step back. They abruptly took a step back. After seeing this, Ji said indifferently, "Back off." At this moment, the forces of the 5 major territories slowly gathered under the evolving temple. Suddenly, with a boom, that group of people flew down and landed on the ground. At this moment, they slowly opened their eyes. Ji was like a god. The power of the 5 elements each turned into a ball of light and floated in the air. With a wave of Ji's hand, the several balls of fire suddenly fell down at this moment. Boom, boom. 3 loud sounds were heard again. A ball of fierce Shen energy exploded on the ground. A trace of vigilance appeared in the eyes of the people from the 13 provinces. Mu Yunfei said indifferently, "This kid is really too scary. Brothers, let's retreat first." After shouting these words, the rest of the people turned their heads and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Ji slowly took a few steps forward. In the blink of an eye, she landed on the ground. The 13 of them raised their heads and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Ji said faintly, "Stop right there." They glared angrily at Ji and roared at her. "How can there be no one left?" After hearing this, they looked at each other. Ji said indifferently, "Stop, move." The rest of the people looked at each other. Ji said indifferently, "They destroyed our ancestral temple. We must avenge this. Let them go today." After leaving, they looked at each other and stood up. Ji said indifferently, "Pass down my order. The sovereigns of the 5 territories will fight." Although Ji had unified the 5 territories, in the process, Ji had distributed the 5 thrones to the royals who supported Ji. 5 Shenyuan carriages slowly came forward. They got off the carriages. The king of the eastern region got off the carriage. They knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing. He said indifferently, "Your Majesty, don't go. If you go, won't you admit that the 5 territories belong to that former servant?" After hearing this, the king of the eastern region's heart suddenly beat. That's right. Who didn't want to be the ruler of the 5 territories? He suddenly thought of this and his heart beat faster. The kings of the other 4 domains also arrived one after another. Their minds were all racing in their heads. Jin Xiaoyuan's arrival completely shattered their illusions. A beginner in the heavenly profound realm. The king of the eastern region trembled and slowly stood up. Ji said indifferently, "Come in." Hearing this thunderous voice, the sovereigns of the 5 territories all lowered their heads. Chapter 787. The wind continued to howl. The 5 of them followed the directions of the people on both sides and knelt on the ground one after another. They all looked in the direction of Ji. Ji said indifferently, "From today onwards, I am your king. Do you have any objections?" At this moment, they raised their heads. The rest of the people slowly gathered and surrounded Ji. At this moment, they fixed their gazes on Ji. The kings of the 5 regions raised their heads. He said indifferently, "From today onwards, the 5 regions will gather their soldiers under me." After hearing this, they looked at each other and stood up. Ji walked forward and knelt on the ground. They did not know what to say. The person beside them suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of Ji. Ji's figure flashed and he disappeared from where he stood. After a moment, Ji appeared in a flash. He took 2 steps forward and said indifferently, "Why? Do you have any other thoughts?" After hearing this, they looked at each other and stood up. In a flash, they quickly surrounded Ji. Then, they landed on the ground. The kings of the West region and North region stood up and roared at Ji. He roared at Ji, "The world is still in our hands. Ji, you have betrayed your oath. You forgot that you said you would share the world with us." Suddenly, the dark force around the king of the West region surged. A strong surge of dark force rushed between heaven and earth. He suddenly flew up and landed in front of Ji-yu. The dark force that had gathered in his hand suddenly fell down. That ball of dark force fell down, causing everyone to look at each other. Ji-yu flew up and landed not far away after a few leaps. They raised their heads at the same time. In the blink of an eye, they came to the bottom of Ji-yu's feet. Ji-yu suddenly kicked out. That person suddenly flew backward and fell into the bloody ground. The rest of the people raised their heads and fixed their gazes on Ji-yu. Suddenly, an axe shot out and landed in Ji-yu's hand. The king of the West region had never expected that he would end up like this, even though he had been hiding his strength at the peak of the 9th level of the Earth Profound Realm. The profound energy in his body seemed to be suppressed by Ji-yu. Ji-yu flew forward. In the blink of an eye, the rest of the people jumped down. When they saw this scene, they turned their heads. They did not see anything behind them. The rest of the people suddenly gathered around them and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Ji-yu's figure flashed and she disappeared from where she was. Ji-yu shot forward and disappeared from where she was. The king of the West region appeared in front of Ji-yu in an instant. Ji-yu suddenly reached out, grabbed his neck, and slowly lifted him up. She grabbed him with both hands and disappeared from where she was in an instant. He felt that all the bones in his body were about to break. Catcher, catcher, catcher sounds could be heard. He raised his head and looked in the direction of Ji-yu. Chapter 788. Ji-yu's figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. After a while, Ji-yu suddenly slapped out. A mouthful of blood flowed out. The rest of the people glanced at each other. Ji-yu took a step forward and said indifferently, "What about you?" After hearing this, they glanced at each other. Ji-yu said indifferently, "If you don't speak, it's your turn." After hearing these words, the hearts of the kings of the 4 domains started to thump. They made up their minds and stepped forward. They kept kowtowing to Ji-yu and said, "My king, please forgive us. We were wrong." Only then did Ji-yu slowly raise his hand. The rest of the people suddenly stood up. He said indifferently, "Pass down my order. Kill them." After hearing this, the rest of the people gathered together. The kings of the 4 regions retreated and summoned the ministers. After hearing this, they raised their heads. They wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. At this moment, they glanced at each other. All the ministers looked at their monarchs. At this moment, the monarchs said slowly, "Start counting the number of people in each region." After hearing this, all the ministers were stunned. "King of the Northern region, we can't afford to fight anymore." Everyone looked at each other. He raised his head. After hearing this, the king of the Northern region's heart suddenly trembled. However, when he thought of the king of the Western region's fate, a trace of fear appeared in his heart. He said indifferently, "What do you want to do?" After hearing these words, they retreated and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After a while, they slowly walked forward. They all knelt in front of Ji-yu. They turned their gazes to the front. Ji-yu said indifferently, "Are your things out?" The kings of the 4 regions knelt in front of Ji-yu and said indifferently, "Who are you?" After hearing this, they looked at each other. The kings of the 4 regions took a step forward. At this moment, Xian-Qi quickly gathered. The rest of the people looked into the palace. Ji-yu said plainly, "Go ahead and report it." After hearing this, they looked at each other. At this moment, they slowly raised their heads and put the things on the table. After witnessing this scene, Zhongxian was stunned. Ji-yu said indifferently, "Report it." The king of the Northern region stepped forward first. "My lord, we have a total of people in the defensive Profound Realm. Don't mention those below the human Profound Realm." After these words were spoken, Yizichen nodded. They raised their heads at the same time and calmly said to Ji-yu, "There are a total of 130,000 people in the human Profound Realm." "Me too. Me too." The kings of the 4 regions all said the same thing. Ji-yu nodded. That was to say, their state could only use about 500,000 soldiers. Chapter 789. Under Ji-yu's command, all the human Profound Realm experts gathered in front of the evolving shrine. They all knelt on the ground and looked in the direction of Ji-yu. Ji said indifferently, "Are you willing to bring the glory of the central state to the land of the 13 states?" "Yes, yes," they all shouted in unison. Ji nodded in satisfaction and walked forward. After seeing Ji, a thought suddenly appeared in their minds. This was their king. She was really too powerful. Ji took a step forward. She suddenly raised her hand. At this moment, the people around her slowly stepped forward. In the blink of an eye, their bodies flashed and they suddenly disappeared from where they were. They slowly walked forward. At this moment, heavenly thunder rumbled. At this moment, tears fell from the sky. They saw that the lightning gathered in Ji's hand. Looking at the power of the lightning, they all knelt on the ground. "Panda, panda." At this moment, everyone rushed out one after another and landed on the ground. They raised their heads at the same time and gathered together at this moment. Dark force circled in their hearts and quickly gathered strong dark force. Right at this moment, the profound energies started to gather in his hands. Then, the profound energies started to scatter in all directions. Right at this moment, the profound energies started to scatter in all directions. The power of lightning exploded in all directions with a loud rumble. Seeing this, Ji's body flashed and she disappeared from where she was. Ji's hands contained strong dark force. Ji said indifferently, "Pass down my order. Set off." At this moment, more than 500,000 people gathered together and walked out in another direction at the same time. After shouting these words, the people around them flew in front of Ji. They gathered the dark force in their hands. In an instant, the powerful dark force flew out and exploded on the ground. At this moment, that ball of Shen energy flashed and disappeared from the spot. Among the 13 prefectures on the continent, the cloud-haired estate was built by the imperial court. It was different from the other prefectures. They basically decided the winner by the number of people they had. Suddenly, there was an urgent report from the border. Countless ministers walked to the front of the hall. They all knelt on the ground and said to Mu Yunfei in front of them, reporting to Grand Ancestor, "There's an urgent report from the border. 100,000 soldiers from the central province have arrived at our border. In the past, behind Ironland Mountain, there was only a layer of thick fog. Those who lived in the thick fog were unable to pass through this layer of fog and remained there forever. They all knelt on the ground, hoping that their lord would give them a way out." After saying this, Mu Yunfei stood up and said, "Is anyone willing to go?" After hearing this, they looked at each other and knelt on the ground. Then, they slowly said to Mu Yunfei in front of them, "We are willing to go." The ones who spoke were the 5 emperors. The cloud-haired estate was divided into 13 prefectures. The remaining people looked at each other. The remaining people stepped forward. After seeing this, the remaining emperors all said, "We are also willing to go." Chapter 790. After the meeting was adjourned, the prefecture overseers of the 13 prefectures began to discuss in private. "Young lord, what should we do? If we let those bastards in, will we still have a good life?" After hearing those words, his heart skipped a beat. That's right, if the prefecture overseers of the 13 prefectures were to participate in the battle, wouldn't he lose his position as crown prince in the future? When he thought of this, his mood suddenly dropped. "Who is our biggest competitor?" he asked faintly. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other and whispered in a low voice. He said softly, "That's the Dawn Cloud Cavalry. When the time comes, we'll let them go first." After saying this, everyone looked at each other. No one knew what they were thinking in their hearts. The sound of drums rang out continuously. Crown Prince Mu Yunran smiled faintly, "Let's go. Let us see how much of a piece of trash that lives by hiding is." The 13 armies arrived at the 1000 Dang Pass at the same time. When the soldiers saw the army led by Jiyu, they couldn't help but feel a trace of admiration in their hearts. This army's composure, this profound chi, was truly one of a kind in the world. However, if they want to defeat us with this, they're looking down on everyone in the world too much. Du Fei took a step forward and cupped his hands, reporting to Crown Prince, "This subject is useless. I'm willing to be the vanguard of the army and cut off that bastard's head." Before they left, Mu Yunfei didn't tell them that Ji was a sky profound realm expert. Otherwise, no matter how powerful they were, they wouldn't dare to say such a thing. All right, you go. Du Fei led the 3,000 spirit profound realm experts and rode out of the pass. He pointed the large blade in his hand at Ji's direction. Bastard, come out and accept your death. With a roar, the strength of the earth profound realm suddenly appeared. 2 horses fell to the ground and blood splattered from their faces. Ha ha ha, useless things, where is Ji? Come out and accept your death. Ji didn't move. It wasn't his turn to personally deal with trash with this level of strength. The general beside him had long since turned red from listening. Disciple Li Fei is not talented, but I am willing to go and ask for advice. Yes. As Ji's indifferent voice fell, Li Fei held his long sword and landed on the ground. The unique black profound energy of the earth profound realm suddenly covered his entire body. Profound skill, violent wind slash. In a short moment, Li Fei swung his sword thousands of times. In the sky, a silvery light flashed. Every ray of silver light that fell collided with the stone wall. Boom! Another loud sound rang out, and smoke and dust billowed, covering the surroundings. In an instant, they raised their heads at the same time. Suddenly, the sound of wind rose from all directions, gradually forming a large circle inwards. The blades gradually fell, as if countless heads were rolling down. Du Fei himself was an expert of the earth profound realm, so he could naturally rely on his strong profound strength to resist this wave of profound strength. However, who were those people beside him? They were just pitiful weaklings of the human profound realm. Under Li Fei's profound skill, the smell of blood continuously spread and rushed in all directions. No, my iron army. At this moment, he felt as if his heart was being torn apart. Chapter 791. His gaze locked onto Li Fei. Thief, how dare you kill my soldiers? Humph, this is a battlefield. Li Fei led the profound realm experts into the enemy's crowd. He was cutting the heads of the soldiers of the Muyun state as if he was cutting vegetables. He couldn't hold back anymore. Du Fei immediately shouted, "Retreat, retreat. You want to leave?" Li Fei appeared in front of him in the blink of an eye. The long saber in his hand fell like lightning. A head was placed right in front of him. Ji nodded in satisfaction and looked at the city wall. The goddess will bless us. Soldiers, follow me and kill. After shouting these words, the soldiers beside him kicked the bellies of the horses and rushed out one after another. Another disciple, Chu Fei, took the lead. He gathered all the dark force in his body and waved his long sword, bombarding the city wall. The city wall collapsed with a loud bang. There was a loud boom. The city wall turned into ashes. The remaining people shouted and rushed into the city pass. Blood once again dyed the city pass red. They stood on top of the city wall. Crown Prince Muyunren was forced to stand in front of Ji. Ji said coldly, "Kill them." Muyunren never expected that the 13 prefectures couldn't withstand Ji's attack. What kind of strength was this? How could the power of a single prefecture be so strong? They all gathered together and surrounded the city walls, casting their gazes outwards. At this moment, they gathered. He raised his machete and chopped off their heads from their horses. He galloped his war horse and came to the front of the matrix. Ji said indifferently, "Muyunfei, I'm here for you. Old ancestor, don't go." In the imperial city, a group of ministers knelt down. Ji was not a normal person. He was clearly a demon. He was here to take their lives. Mu Yunfei closed his eyes. He never thought that after so many years of painstakingly managing the Muyun state, he would end up like this just because he wanted to humiliate Jiyu in the central state. After letting out a sigh, the Emperor Qi returned to his body. "What are you crying for? I'm not dead yet. I'm the governor of the Muyun prefecture, so I naturally have to rule over all the people in the world. I'm going to kill this little Jiyu in front of the city walls. Long live the old ancestor." Mu Yunfei held the golden spear in his hand and walked out of the palace. He looked down at the majestic army below the city walls and said with a trace of disdain, "Where is Jiyu?" Jiyu rolled her eyes at him. She took out a small piece of metal and held it between her fingers. Then, she swung it heavily. The golden leaf was like a sharp long knife. Mu Yunfei's aura energy was instantly broken apart. Such powerful, profound strength. Jiyu, you're here. Do you dare to come out and see me? What kind of hero are you to use such despicable moves? Jiyu spurred her horse and took 2 steps forward. The White Lion King Shen beast squatted at the side. It looked extremely vigilant, as if it would tear anything that dared to approach Jiyu. She's come out. Where are the 13 golden generals? Kill her. Granny, Granny, Mimi. A series of low murmurs sounded as if someone was whispering about something. Chapter 792. Suddenly, 13 black figures flew out. Their target was Jiyu. Jiyu smiled. In the blink of an eye, 13 black figures suddenly landed in front of Jiyu. Their long swords were pointed directly at Jiyu. Those long swords suddenly fell. In a flash, Jiyu disappeared from her original spot. After a moment, she swung the long sword in her hand. Ding, there was another resounding boom, and Jiyu abruptly retreated. Seeing the giant sword coming down, the long sword was swung in Jiyu's direction. Jiyu did not move. The Lion King roared and fought with the 13 men in black. You actually have a heaven-grade mystical beast. No wonder you are so arrogant. But so what? My 13 shadow guards are the strongest people in the world. Die. After shouting these words, he jumped down and swung the long sword in his hand in the direction of Jiyu's neck. Jiyu smiled. In a flash, she disappeared from her original spot. After a moment, she appeared behind him. It was as if she was the god of death, announcing his death. No, I can't accept this. He roared angrily. He turned around and swung the long sword at Jiyu. Jiyu's body flashed and she disappeared. What a fast speed. They all sighed. Suddenly, Jiyu appeared in the void. Those long swords suddenly swung down. Boom, boom, boom. 3 violent sounds were heard. The thick fog in front of them gradually disappeared. Jiyu landed on the city wall. Her penetrating gaze locked on them. Kill. After shouting these words, the people around her jumped down. At the same time, they pulled out their long swords and attacked the surrounding crowd. Screams were heard at the same time. They were stabbed by the long swords and let out tragic cries. At the same time, they fell into a pool of blood. Blood spurted out of Mu Yunfei's mouth as dozens of people flew out from behind him. Jiyu smiled. Mu Yunfei truly cherished his life. However, he was too naive to think that these people could stop her. His figure flashed and disappeared from his original spot. After a while, he was already in the void. The sky-profound realm had the power to fly. He stepped into the void. The power of thunder and lightning in his hand kept crackling. The power of thunder and lightning suddenly struck down. Bolts of lightning struck the vast land in front of him. The remaining people suddenly raised their heads and looked in the direction of Jiyu. In the blink of an eye, they raised the treasures in their hands and stabbed at Jiyu. Jiyu's body flashed and appeared in front of Mu Yunfei. Mu Yunfei suddenly turned around. His hands were filled with dark force. Just as he was about to slap forward, Jiyu suddenly disappeared. When she reappeared, she was already in front of him. The power of the treasures suddenly fell and stabbed his body. After being stabbed by the dark force, Mu Yunfei no longer had any dark force fluctuation. As Jiyu's Kuanpeng giant sword suddenly moved, his dantian instantly ruptured. Jiyu felt that her power of the 5 elements had directly broken through to the peak of the 5th level of the sky-profound realm at this moment. Chapter 793. Mu Yunfei's body was placed in front of everyone. They chained the corpses to the carriages, and together with the remaining people, they led the carriages and rode out in all directions. They walked in all directions and looked outside. The rest of the people gathered, and the person in the carriage jumped in front of Jiyu. They walked out of their houses. When they saw the people in the carriage, they were shocked. It was unbelievable. They took a deep breath and raised their hands. He raised his hand heavily. At this moment, the sound of drums suddenly sounded in the surroundings. At this moment, the people in the surroundings gathered and slowly walked forward in another direction. They fell to the ground and cried in pain. "Master! My king!" Seeing this, Jiyu's army did not pay any attention to them. They turned around and walked in another direction to capture them. They all walked in another direction. The remaining people flew and attacked Jiyu. Jiyu suddenly raised the Kuan-Peng giant sword in his hand and slashed it down heavily. The enormous dark force instantly flew out of the Kuan-Peng treasure weapon. Jiyu said indifferently, "Let's go. The Shentian prefecture will be our next target," Lin Yun said. In Shentian province. In the main hall, everyone was drinking crazily. Since Lord Tianqi unified all the sects, there was nothing for them to work on. They lay on the table and kept raising their wine glasses. They drank one glass after another. The remaining people looked at each other and got up. In the blink of an eye, Jiyu flew forward and landed on the ground. He stood on the city wall and said indifferently, "Shentian province, surrender obediently." After saying this, the people who were drinking put down the wine glasses in their hands. They stood up and disappeared in an instant. When they landed on the ground, they raised their heads at the same time and looked in front. At this moment, the experts of Shentian province shot out one after another. Standing on the ground, they fixed their eyes on Jiyu at the same time. At this moment, those people looked at each other and jumped down in the blink of an eye. They fixed their eyes on Jiyu. "Boy, I don't know where you came from, but you're too arrogant. Come at me together." When Jiyu saw how forthright Mo Yang was, the corners of her mouth involuntarily curled into a smile. At this moment, they landed on the ground and fixed their eyes on Jiyu. At this moment, the remaining people flew in front of Jiyu. They looked at each other and got up. At that moment, he raised his hand and launched an attack in Jiyu's direction. Jiyu suddenly took a few steps back. He raised his hand and the treasure in his hand suddenly emitted a ray of light. At this moment, a mystical beast landed on the ground. Its whole body emitted a red light as if it was roaring. It pounced in Jiyu's direction. Jiyu suddenly slashed forward with his sword. Chapter 794. Boom. Another loud sound rang out. The Xian beast fell to the ground. It struggled to get up, but when it looked at Jiyu, there was a trace of fear in its eyes. Jiyu snorted coldly. A ball of Xian qi appeared in her hands. That ball of Xian qi swung forward, and another violent explosion rang out. That person fell heavily to the ground. Tianxian province's governor, Daoist Tianqi, never expected that the Xian beast that he had nurtured would be smashed into a bloody mist by a single punch. His heart was filled with rage. He leaped up and swung his fist in the direction of Jiyu. Another ball of Xian qi erupted at this moment, charging directly towards the governor. After seeing this, Jiyu disappeared in a flash. Daoist Tianqi roared angrily, "Jiyu, how dare you?" After roaring this sentence, he suddenly saw Jiyu's body in his body flash. In the blink of an eye, she appeared behind the governor. The profound force in his hands suddenly dropped down, and with a boom, another punch fell down. That fist slammed into the governor's body. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Daoist Tianqi never expected that he would be finished like this. He gasped for breath and said, "Jiyu, you will become the devil of the 13 prefectures. You deserve to die." As soon as his voice fell, his body rapidly expanded. It gathered in the air and gradually shattered. Boom. Everyone in Tianxian province saw this scene. Looking at the blood floating in the air, fear grew in their hearts. Jiyu raised his hand, and all the soldiers stood up and slowly walked forward. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared on the spot. They all landed in front of Jiyu and knelt on the ground. "Greetings, new lord." Some of the more courageous ones were infuriated when they saw them surrender. However, there was nothing they could do. After gathering the forces of 3 prefectures, Jiyu decided to launch a large-scale attack on the remaining 10 prefectures. The prefecture kings of the 10 prefectures had gathered. They did not expect that the wrong decision they made back then would cause the entire clan to fall into a crisis. They gathered together and discussed what they should do next. He only has the strength of 3 prefectures, and there are still 2 prefectures that have just been consolidated. His strength is probably not that great, so I've decided to gather the strength of our 10 prefectures and fight to the death with him. Yes, that's right. Fight to the death. Heavenly Evil Emperor, the hope of the people of the 9 states is in your hands. A faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In order to obtain the power of the life and death mysterious realm, I have to try. Let's see who can land among the kings of this province. The Heavenly Evil Emperor's immortal Tao is eternal. They all cheered and walked out of the door. At this moment, there was a thundercloud in the sky. All the experts of the 10 prefectures appeared and walked toward the border of Zhongzhou. They flew and landed in the crowd. Heavenly Evil Emperor looked in the direction of the crowd. Jiyu, why don't we fight today? Chapter 795. Jiyu's body suddenly flashed. Her strength of LV5 of the heavenly profound realm made him gasp. Jiyu, go to hell. After shouting these words, the dark force in their hands quickly gathered together. They flew down and the 2 powerful dark forces collided with each other. Boom. Another loud sound was heard. The 2 of them retreated to the side. Jiyu floated in the air. They were surprised that the other's dark force was so powerful. A red light shone from the Kuan Peng prized treasure and a flaming bird soared into the sky. It then solidified in the air and the prized treasures on Jiyu's body appeared one after another. They merged with the power of the Kuan Peng precious weapon. When the 2 balls of profound energy gathered together, it was as if they were a ball of raging fire as they fell down directly. Emperor Heavenly Evil snorted. A ball of black flame appeared in his hands. At this moment, the black flame spread around his hands. At this moment, the 2 balls of flames collided with each other. Another boom was heard, and the black flames gradually spread towards the other party's body. The black flames seemed like they would never be extinguished. Jiyu snorted coldly, and the Kuan Peng fire on his body suddenly burned, burning together with the black flames. One was the evil and evil flame of time, while the other was the purest flame in the world. The 2 flames burned together, creating a raging inferno that reached the sky. It seemed like the whole world was going to burn. Jiyu snorted and punched forward. Boom. Another loud sound was heard. The sky seemed to be torn apart. At this moment, the flames in the sky fell down. People looked around for a safe place. However, there were also many people who jumped out one after another to protect these weak people. Both of them were the most powerful existences in the world. If either side lost, then the remaining side would meet the end of death. Jiyu sneered. With a flash of his body, he floated in the void. Then, he punched out again. His fist burned like a ball of fire as it hit Emperor Heavenly Evil's body. "Oh no, my spirit!" he exclaimed. His body flashed and appeared behind Jiyu. As the Lord of the Union of 10,000 Immortals, he couldn't allow himself to be defeated. He turned around abruptly. Their fists collided with each other. Both of their faces were filled with madness. "Go to hell! Go to hell!" Both of them shouted at the same time. Their dark forces collided with each other. At this moment, the flame was floating in the void. At this moment, the flames began to burn. The flames soared into the sky, burning everything around them. After seeing this, Jiyu's body suddenly flashed and disappeared from where he was. A moment later, he appeared where he was standing. She raised the dark force in her hand and punched downwards. That mass of Xian energy heavily collided together. Boom! Another ball of fire exploded. At this moment, the flames started to burn in all directions and on Emperor Heavenly Evil's body. Heavenly Evil Emperor screamed in agony. Chapter 796. A ball of golden light emerged from the spot where Jiyu had struck him. The ball of golden light spread out in all directions, like fragments, and gradually fell to the ground. "Ha ha ha, I actually lost, I actually lost." After roaring this sentence, his body seemed to be like a ball of thick fog, and gradually shattered. At this moment, Emperor Heavenly Evil turned around and disappeared from where he was. After a while, he floated in the void, and the ball of dark force gathered in his hand. A rune seemed to appear, and the rune hit the ground. Suddenly, a golden light flashed, and it seemed that the rune was spreading in the direction of Ji-yu. Ji-yu snorted and stepped on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. At this moment, the ball of golden light gradually dissipated. His body flashed and he disappeared from the ground. "Array, you are not strong enough to defeat me." There was a trace of despair in Emperor Heavenly Evil's eyes. When the prefecture lords of the 10 prefectures saw that the leader of the Union of 10,000 Immortals was killed by Ji-yu, they retreated like frightened birds. Gradually, a feather formed on the ground. Ji-yu reached out and grabbed it. Suddenly, the feather flew out and slowly fell into Ji-yu's hand. After Ji-yu caught the feather, he stepped on the ground and disappeared in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. As the feather fluttered in the air, the people of the 10 prefectures knelt on the ground. "Welcome the master of the world." On the second day, everyone was busy. Ji-yu issued the order as the master of the world. First, from today onwards, no one was to kill dark beasts at will. Second, Ji-yu turned his dark force into dark stones, so that there would be an endless supply of dark stones on this continent. Third, no one was to start a war at will. Fourth, do not force others to do anything that goes against Ji-yu's orders. Over 1,000 decrees were issued, and everyone cheered. At the same time, Ji-yu led the people to restore the 4 seas, and the 13 prefectures and prefectures resumed their trade. Every family set up a memorial tablet for Ji-yu. They began to worship this living immortal. Ji-yu fulfilled her promise. In front of the evolving temple in the central region, all the nobles and officials from all over the world were rushing in this direction. Today was the wedding day of the World Lord. The 7-colored heavenly snake, the Jiang sisters, the Queen of Ice and Frost, the princesses of the 3 kingdoms, and so on. They all stood behind him. Everyone looked at this scene happily. Everyone's Shen beasts walked out of the sea and mountains in a grand wedding. Xiao Ji-yu lay on Ji-yu's body with a blissful expression. At this moment, the Lion King had regained his freedom. He roared as he returned to the mountains. From today onwards, he was the king of the Shen beasts. A year later, the sound of children falling to the ground could be heard. Ji-yu hugged his 3 sons and 2 daughters excitedly. This was the continuation of his life. He tapped each of their foreheads lightly. In an instant, the 5 children broke through to the peak of the profound world realm. Now, other than him, there were 13 profound sky realm experts. These people were either Ji-yu's disciples or his women. Chapter 797. Another year passed by. Ji-yu sensed that there was something in his body that was summoning something. He walked out of the door, raised his head, and gathered a ball of Shen energy in his hands. At this moment, the sky gradually gathered, as if there was a whirlpool that was spiraling. Ji-yu, God is here to guide you back to the God realm. From today onwards, you are God's servant. Ding. Congratulations to the host for breaking through to the Saint Profound realm. Ji-yu's body was constantly breaking, gathering, and breaking. Every part of his body could be combined freely. Servant. The corners of Ji-yu's mouth curled up into a smile, looking very demonic. Suddenly, a golden light shone into the evolving temple. A figure appeared outside the evolving temple. He said angrily, "Ji-yu, why don't you come out and meet the immortal?" "Get lost." A light sentence flew out, as if it was a spell, and hit the immortal. He was only at the Sky Profound realm, far from Ji-yu's Saint Profound realm. Until the moment his soul was destroyed, he still couldn't understand how a person who had always been in the mortal world could have Shen energy that surpassed his. The sky seemed to be about to be destroyed. Perhaps it had sensed Ji-yu's actions. There was a broken sound in the sky. "Ji-yu, you deserve to die for offending the heavens." At this moment, Ji-yu stood up, as if he had broken the sky. He walked towards the sky step by step, and with a flash of light, he disappeared from the mortal world. The heaven realm was born from countless realms. Ji-yu tore apart the guardians of the realms and stood in front of the gate of heaven. At this moment, a few peak sky profound realm existences flew out and stood in front of Ji-yu. Under the sound of thunder, they said to Ji-yu, "Ji-yu, how dare you offend the heaven realm? How should you be punished? No one can make me a servant, including you, heaven. How dare you?" One of the heavenly immortals roared furiously. With a flash of his body, it was as though he possessed the might of the heaven and earth. With a casual grab, a boundless power was born. If this was in the mortal world, this grab would have been able to shatter the heaven and earth. He swung his arm in the direction of Ji-Yu. Right at this moment, the dark force seemed to be destroying the world. Right at this moment, a ball of lightning appeared in the sky and suddenly struck down. Boom, boom, boom. Another 3 loud noises were heard. Suddenly, heaven and earth collapsed. Ji-Yu stood up, and in a flash, she appeared behind the celestial immortal. The dark force in her hand transformed into a long sword, and she abruptly stabbed the celestial immortal's back. Boom. Another loud sound rang out. The sky seemed to shatter as the celestial immortals fell into the mortal world. Ji-Yu didn't have a fixed treasure artifact. Just by thinking about it, the treasure artifact would constantly change. Her body flashed and instantly disappeared from the spot. In the next moment, she grabbed one of the people by the neck and said heavily, "Die." After he shouted those words, the power of lightning suddenly burst forth. The lightning continued to strike down and suddenly exploded in all directions. Boom, 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 boom. 3 loud sounds were heard. Chapter 798. Everyone around them was reduced to a pile of scorched earth. Just then, they landed in front of Ji-Yu. His body flashed and he disappeared from the spot in an instant. The great artifact transformed into a long snake and gradually flew towards Ji-Yu. Ji-Yu abruptly flashed backwards and disappeared from the spot she was standing on. In the blink of an eye, she flew into the sky. With incomparable majesty, she slowly opened her mouth and said, "Die." There was a loud boom and another clap of thunder. Suddenly, she fell from the sky. Seeing this, Ji-Yu's body flashed and she disappeared from where she was. The celestial immortals panicked. Ji-Yu was so strong. "Divine General, save us." In the sky, a voice came from the void. "Those who offend the god realm shall be killed." After this voice, a man in armor appeared in front of Ji-Yu. Suddenly, 2 balls of dark energy gathered in his hands. "Kill." Ji-Yu suddenly jumped up and passed through the sun, moon, and stars. She clenched her fists tightly and held a star in her hand. Then, she slammed it down on the man. Boom. There was a loud sound and dust flew up. As if wanting to devour everything in this world, the Divine General flew into the void. The surroundings were dark, and only the countless stars were emitting their own light. Divine skill, mysterious heavenly transformation. At this moment, countless stars gathered together like a long saber. Suddenly, they slammed down in Ji-Yu's direction. Ji-Yu only punched out and the countless stars seemed to shatter. She reached out and grabbed at the Divine General. Suddenly, she passed through the layers of stars and smashed into the ground. Countless black holes appeared in the sky. The Divine General was a little crazy at this moment. He shouted at Ji-Yu ferociously, "Go to hell." After shouting, those black holes flew in Ji-Yu's direction. Ji-Yu stretched out her hand and the countless black lights shrunk rapidly and landed on her body. Ji-Yu's experience points continued to soar. She suddenly broke through and became a Divine King Profound Realm expert. At this moment, the Divine Realm was trembling. This was a dark energy that they couldn't resist. This was a dark energy that could destroy heaven and earth. Suddenly, this dark energy fell with a loud bang. Everything around them was collapsing. Suddenly, the world at this moment gradually disappeared. Ji-Yu floated in the void. She slowly raised her hand. Those black lights gradually floated up and gradually formed a deep night sky. All of a sudden, Ji-Yu realized that the black light had sucked in all 4 of the Divine Generals. The dark energy in his body was also surging crazily. When the dark energy gathered on his body, he seemed to have become one with this world. After passing through the boundless universe, it was as if everything was just a small bead. He came to a white world, and countless small black beads were rolling on the ground. The Supreme God gradually stood up from the throne. "I didn't expect that there would be someone who could break through to the Divine King realm. There are a total of 13 Divine Kings from different realms. Chapter 799. A trace of vigilance appeared in Ji Yu's eyes. So what? His voice didn't carry a trace of emotion. The paramount god king chuckled. At their level, every smile and every action they made would contain a trace of life within the countless worlds. So what? That's right. Every god king who arrives here has a chance to challenge the highest seat. If they lose, they can split their positions and control time and space, controlling the movement of time for us. Ji Yu said indifferently, wouldn't that be reduced to a worker? Hearing this, he was somewhat agitated. You also came from Earth. That's right. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that someone would finally come here. In this place, time has lost its meaning. Space has also lost its meaning. I can't feel my own existence. They can't feel it either. We only need to control time and let it flow forever. Time is still a god? Ji Yu suddenly asked. After hearing this, they were all stunned. Logically speaking, time didn't exist. But all of this wasn't important. The 13 god kings spoke one after another. Make your move, Ji Yu. Choose an opponent you want. Ji Yu looked ahead and said indifferently, I want you, Supreme God King. Challenge me. If you lose, you might disappear. If you only become a slave to time, what's the meaning of your existence? They were merely existences. They had no life. They had no meaning. This sentence was equivalent to scolding all the god kings present. With a cold snort, they gathered together and disappeared from the spot in a flash. An endless amount of profound energy started to attack from who knows where. Ji Yu merely raised his hand and punched out. The punch of a peak god king could destroy countless worlds. This punch couldn't be described with words. The god kings standing beside Ji Yu didn't expect that Ji Yu would suddenly attack. Are you trying to destroy order? Order. Your existence is the one that is destroying order. Impudent. After shouting this sentence, the two of them slammed their palms together, and a huge explosion occurred around them. The power of destruction directly covered the sky and the earth. This world was gradually sinking, as if there was a tsunami that swallowed up the surroundings. It was as if the sea had accepted their return. The 3 god kings were instantly swept up by this power and disappeared from this world. The supreme god king coldly said, You want to destroy us? Naive. After roaring out those words, he raised the golden walking stick in his hand and abruptly slammed it onto the ground. At this moment, profound energy began to spread out in all directions. At this moment, that surge of profound energy was engulfing the surrounding heaven and earth energy. Ji Yu's figure flashed, and he vanished on the spot. In an instant, the color of the sky changed. The white space now had a different color to it. Ji Yu abruptly stretched out her hand and beckoned. The supreme god king and the 10 great god kings under him disappeared together. Ji Yu stood in a place without any color, space, or time. She calmly said, Are you still not coming out? The god of time. Haha, I didn't expect that after so many years, someone would still see through me. The god of fate was killed by you. What an interesting existence. Ji Yu calmly said, From today onwards, the god of time will no longer exist. Kill me. That will disrupt time. From today onwards, time will become countless branches. Space will also not be space. They will not be able to link together, and will not be able to produce an endless stream of experts. Is this what you want? Ji Yu coldly laughed, You are toying with all life, so you must die. Then let's do it. Ji Yu abruptly waved her hand. Suddenly, the explosive Shen energy in the surroundings gathered together. The god of time's lips carried a trace of contempt. That ball of Shen energy continued to gather. Suddenly, time began to flow backwards. Ji Yu's Shen energy flowed into the surroundings. Ji Yu coldly smiled. The god of time did not understand what this divine king was laughing about. Ji Yu merely flung his hand down heavily. So it turned out that he could reverse the flow of time. However, with the profound energy that had been infused with Ji Yu's mental energy, even if it was reverse time, it would not be enough. It would also quickly merge with the Shen energy in the surroundings. A huge explosion resounded. It was as if heaven and earth were about to be torn apart. The god of time glared at Ji furiously. You have destroyed time. Time will make you regret your decision. Ji coldly snorted and looked at the divine king's palace. The world did not need a master. They would naturally give birth to their own systems. Suddenly, it fell. At this moment, the divine king's palace gradually collapsed. Chapter 800. Ji left the hall of the deity king. In a flash, he disappeared from his original spot. After traversing through space-time for an unknown distance, he felt a little tired and stopped. The sun, along with the 10 spheres, was flying forward rapidly. Ji gently pushed with his hand and broke through the pile of rubble. He passed through the circle of the sun and sensed the fury of Jupiter. He flew in and infused his dark force into the crystal-like material. Gradually, it formed a long sword. It would be very fun to give this sword to his child to play with. He returned to Earth. His parents in his previous life were still telling each other about their obedient child. Ji suddenly felt warm in his heart. He closed his eyes and drew out a trace of mental strength from his mind. The mental strength gradually formed an identical Ji. He suddenly became a billionaire in this world. In a world where dark force was not required, money was perhaps the only law of power. Ji said faintly, "Everyone, I hope you can be happy." In the blink of an eye, Ji disappeared from his original spot. Ji's clone knocked on the door. Ji's mother walked to the door in puzzlement and opened it. It was her son who had been missing for 2 years. His parents and Ji's clone hugged each other. When Ji appeared, he opened his palm and formed another universe. Perhaps he sensed Ji. He reached out and tapped the void. Life began to move again. Countless civilizations were being nurtured. In the next moment, countless people appeared on the ground. He returned to his own world again. It turned out that more than 10 years had passed. A strange boy stood in front of Ji. He felt that this person was very familiar. His wives walked out of the room. "You are so naughty. When your father comes back, he will definitely beat your buttocks." As soon as he finished speaking, his wives looked at Ji in a daze. Ji smiled and reached out to them. Together, they flew through the various universes. In the blink of an eye, they landed on the ground and slowly raised their heads. At this moment, the ball of Shen energy gathered in their hands. In an instant, Ji placed the most precious thing on the planet on his wife's head. No one knew how many years had passed. They felt that they no longer had the interest to play outside. After returning to the continent, Ji stood in the middle of the mansion. She stretched out her hands and a straight line appeared in her palms. This was the line of time. He smiled faintly and clenched his hands into fists, causing countless time branches to appear. Only then could it be considered as releasing all the time in all the lives. The same thing could be used by countless evolvers. A new question hovered in Ji's mind. Then, who was the one who established time? Now that he had a question in his heart, he wanted to get to the bottom of it. "If you want to know, follow me." Suddenly, a voice rang out in his heart. Ji suddenly flew out, passing through who knew how many worlds. Finally, they arrived in front of a cloud of black fog. "You've come. Who are you?" "The Creator." "Why are you looking for me?" "Ha ha ha, I'm old. The Creator also has a lifespan. I can create everything, but I can't stop it from dying. So, I chose you." "Chose me?" "That's right. Your system and your encounters were all arranged by me. Do you think I'm a clown?" "No, but I'm very surprised that you can come here today." "Why?" "No reason. Are you willing to take on the responsibility of being the Creator?" Black Fog said to Ji in an incomparably serious tone, "As long as you accept it, you may be lonely, but this will allow you to have your own descendants, as well as the reincarnation of your wives. You can have everything, and you can change everything." Ji smiled faintly. "Is that so? Accept it. I'm about to disappear. If you don't accept it, all life will be destroyed." Ji stretched out his hand. The Creator came in front of Ji. At this moment, the black fog was devouring Ji, quickly merging with Ji as one. At this moment, he was the Creator. At this moment, he could see any place in this world. He could see any cause and effect, and could see the birth and destruction of everything. Gu would become eternal. He took a deep breath and turned his consciousness into 13 clones. He sent them to the 13 worlds. He gave each of the 13 clones different fates. He was looking forward to what all of this would be like. Would there be something that could escape the control of the Creator? With a flash of golden light, a young man was brought to a continent by the golden light. Ding! Congratulations to the host for activating the 999X cultivation system. Ding! Congratulations to the host for taking the first step. Basic movement technique experience points gained, 1*999X. Time continued to pass. Gu watched silently as everything unfolded, and a faint smile appeared on his face. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.